The hotel room door exploded inward and Adebayo stood there, chest heaving, phone clutched in his trembling hand. Folake froze, her skin still damp from the shower, a towel barely covering her body. But Adebayo wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the man sitting on the edge of the bed, shirt unbuttoned, a wedding ring glinting on his left hand. Not Adebayo's ring. Someone else's. Adebayo, wait, Folake whispered, her voice cracking. Adebayo's phone slipped from his fingers and shattered against the floor. You're my wife. You're a pastor's wife. The man on the bed stood slowly, reaching for his jacket. Adebayo lunged forward, but Folake stepped between them, her hands raised. Please, just let me explain. Explain. Adebayo's laugh was hollow, broken. Explain what? That's my wife, the woman who leads women's Bible study every Wednesday, the woman who counsels struggling marriages, has been doing this. Folake's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. She couldn't. Because there was so much more Adebayo didn't know. So much worse than what he was seeing right now. And when he found out the full truth, it wouldn't just break him. It would destroy everything they'd built over 12 years of marriage, everything their church believed about them, everything their community trusted. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. To understand how Folake Adeyemi, the most beloved First Lady of Redemption Grace Ministries, ended up in that hotel room, we need to go back. Back to where it all started to unravel. 3 months earlier, Folake stood in front of her bathroom mirror, studying her reflection like it belonged to a stranger. 34 years old, beautiful by anyone's standards, dressed in a modest flower dress that hit just below the knee. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her makeup subtle and elegant. She looked exactly like what she was supposed to be, the perfect pastor's wife. Folake, we need to leave in 10 minutes, Adebayo called from downstairs. Come in, she called back, forcing brightness into her voice. She descended the stairs of their 4-bedroom house in the upscale part of Port Harcourt, her heels clicking against the marble floors. Adebayo stood by the door, handsome in his navy suit, his Bible tucked under his arm. He smiled when he saw her, that same warm smile that had made her fall in love with him 15 years ago. You look beautiful, he said, kissing her forehead. Thank you, honey. They drove to church in Adebayo's new Range Rover, discussing the day's sermon topic. Adebayo was passionate about his message on faithfulness in marriage, and Folake listened, nodding at the right moments, adding comments when expected. She was good at this. She'd been doing it for over a decade. Redemption Grace Ministries was packed, as it was every Sunday. 3,000 members filled the sanctuary, with overflow crowds watching from the fellowship hall. Adebayo was a gifted preacher, charismatic and genuine. People loved him. And they loved Folake too, though for different reasons. Where Adebayo was the spiritual authority, Folake was the compassionate listener, the shoulder to cry on, the woman who somehow balanced being both approachable and aspirational. After service, Folake stood in the lobby, greeting members, listening to prayer requests, offering words of encouragement. Sister Abasid wanted prayer for her troubled marriage. Folake held her hands, prayed with her, advised her to keep fighting for her husband. Brother Babajid and his wife Omalara shared that they were expecting their first child after 8 years. Folake hugged them both, her smile genuine even as something twisted inside her chest. Sister Folake, you and Pastor Adebayo are such an inspiration, young Ayamite said, approaching with her fiancé. We want our marriage to be just like yours. Folake felt Adebayo's arm slide around her waist. Just keep God at the center, he said. That's our secret. Folake maintained her smile until her face ached. That evening, after they'd returned home and Adebayo had retreated to his study to prepare for the week services, Folake sat alone in their bedroom. She pulled out her phone, stared at it for a long moment, then opened her messages. There were 3 unread texts from a number saved under the name Turn Enterprises. The first message read, "Same time tomorrow." The second, you left your earring. I'm keeping it. The third, I can't stop thinking about you. Folake's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should delete these messages. She should block the number. She should go downstairs, confess everything to Adebayo, and beg for forgiveness. Instead, she typed, yes. 2:00. She hit send before she could change her mind. The affair had started 6 months ago, though Folake could trace the cracks in her marriage back much further. It wasn't that Adebayo was a bad husband. He wasn't. He was kind, faithful, a good provider. He loved her, in his way. But somewhere along the journey from passionate newlyweds to established ministry couple, they'd become roommates who happened to run a church together. Their conversations revolved around service schedules, building fund campaigns, and which members needed counseling. Their intimate life had become perfunctory, scheduled around his sermon preparations and her ministry obligations. Folake had tried to bring it up once, 2 years ago. "Bayo, I feel like we're losing each other," she'd said one night after another week of barely touching. He'd looked up from his laptop, distracted. "What do you mean?" "We are fine, Folake. We are doing God's work. But what about us? When's the last time we went on a date? When's the last time you looked at me like you used to? Folake, we are not teenagers anymore. We have responsibilities. The church needs us. I need you." He'd gotten up, kissed her forehead like she was a child, and said, "I'm here, aren't I? Now let me finish this sermon. It's important." Everything was always important. Except her. She'd met Connor Ogonlai at a business conference she'd attended for the church's non-profit arm. He was a successful real estate developer, married with 2 children, charming in a way that felt dangerous. They'd struck up a conversation during the lunch break, and he'd made her laugh for the first time in months. Really laugh, not the practiced, appropriate laugh she used at church functions. "Your husband is a lucky man," Connor had said, his eyes holding hers a moment too long. "Thank you," she'd replied, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. They'd exchanged business cards. Professional networking, nothing more. But then he texted her 3 days later, just checking in, asking how the non-profit project was going. The messages were innocent at first. Business advice. Casual conversation. But slowly, over weeks, they'd become more personal. He asked about her day, her dreams, the things she'd given up when she became a pastor's wife. He listened in a way Adebayo hadn't in years. "Do you ever feel trapped?" he'd asked during one of their phone conversations. Folake had been sitting in her car in the church parking lot, watching Adebayo through the window as he counseled a young couple. "Every single day," she'd whispered. "You deserve more than this, Folake. You deserve to be seen." The first time they met in person, at a quiet restaurant in a different part of town, Folake had told herself it was just dinner. Just a friend listening to her frustrations. But when Connor reached across the table and took her hand, something inside her crumbled. "I can't do this," she'd said, even as her fingers tightened around his. "Then don't," he'd replied. "Just let me take care of you. Just for a few hours. Let someone make you feel special again." That night, in a hotel room she never planned to enter, Folake made a choice that would change everything. She told herself it was just once. Just this one time to feel alive again, to be wanted, to be more than Pastor Adebayo's dutiful wife. But once became twice, became a weekly arrangement, became a secret life she maintained with practiced deception. The lies came easier than she expected. Tuesday afternoons became ministry meetings with the women's group. Thursday mornings were counseling sessions with troubled sisters. She created an elaborate web of cover stories, and the church members who loved her never questioned. Why would they? She was Sister Folake, the trusted First Lady, the woman who'd never given them reason to doubt. The guilt was suffocating at first. She'd lie awake at night, Adebayo sleeping peacefully beside her, and feel like she was being crushed under the weight of her betrayal. She'd pray, begging God for forgiveness even as she knew she'd meet Connor again the next week. The hypocrisy ate at her. How could she counsel Abasid to fight for her marriage when Folake was destroying her own? How could she smile and accept praise for being a godly wife when she was the furthest thing from it? But then something shifted. The guilt didn't disappear, but it became background noise, easy to ignore in the rush of feeling desired again. Connor made her feel beautiful, passionate, interesting. With him, she wasn't the pastor's wife with a reputation to maintain. She was just Folake, a woman with needs and wants that mattered. Leave him, Connor said one afternoon as they lay tangled in hotel sheets. Leave Adebayo and be with me. Folake sat up, pulling the sheet around her. You're married too, Connor. You have children. I'll leave your turned. For you, I'd do it. No. Folake shook her head. This isn't about leaving. This is just about having something that's mine. You deserve more than stolen hours in hotel rooms. Maybe. But this is all I can give right now. The truth was, Folake didn't want to leave Adebayo. She didn't want to blow up her life, face the judgment of the church, lose her position on identity. She just wanted to feel alive without giving up everything she'd built. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too, and for a while, it seemed possible. Then she got sloppy. It started with small things. A strange charge on the credit card statement that she explained away as a women's conference registration. Coming home later than usual, her explanations growing more elaborate. Adebayo, absorbed in his ministry, didn't notice at first. But Sister Bonmi, the church secretary, did. Bonmi had seen Folake leaving the hotel 3 weeks ago. She'd been driving past, on her way to visit her sister, when she spotted the pastor's wife emerging from the Transcorp Hilton at 2 in the afternoon. Alone. Looking around nervously before getting into her car. Bonmi didn't confront her immediately. Instead, she watched. She noticed the pattern of Tuesday and Thursday absences. She saw how Folake's phone buzzed constantly during services, how she'd excuse herself to check messages. She noticed the new lingerie peeking out from a shopping bag in Folake's car, items that seemed far too provocative for a pastor's wife. Bonmi struggled with what to do. On one hand, she loved Folake. The First Lady had been there for her during her own marriage crisis, had prayed with her, supported her. But on the other hand, she loved Pastor Adebayo too, and more than that, she loved the truth. The church deserved to know who they were following. Finally, Bonmi made a decision. She would gather proof, concrete evidence, and then she would go to Pastor Adebayo privately. She would give him the information and let him handle it as he saw fit. She hired her cousin Taiwo, a private investigator, to follow Folake. Taiwo was discreet, professional, and thorough. Within 2 weeks, he had photographs of Folake entering the hotel with a man who was not her husband. He had timestamps of her arrivals and departures. He had phone records showing hundreds of texts and calls to a number registered to Connor Ogunlai. Bonmi sat in her car outside the church, staring at the envelope full of evidence, and wept. She'd hoped she was wrong. She'd prayed she was wrong. But the proof was undeniable. She requested a private meeting with Pastor Adebayo on a Monday afternoon, after the staff had gone home. She sat in his office, the envelope burning in her hands, and tried to find the words. Pastor, I need to tell you something, and it's going to hurt. But you need to know. Adebayo looked up from his notes, concern creasing his forehead. What is it, Bonmi? You look distressed. It's about Sister Folake. His expression shifted immediately, protective. Is she okay? Is something wrong? Pastor, I don't know how to say this gently, so I'm just going to say it. I have evidence that Sister Folake is having an affair. The color drained from Adebayo's face. That's impossible. You're mistaken. I wish I was. Bommi slid the envelope across the desk. I'm so sorry, Pastor. Adebayo stared at the envelope like it was a snake. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, with trembling hands, he opened it and pulled out the photographs. The first showed Folake walking into the hotel with a man, their hands almost touching. The second showed them exiting the elevator on the 5th floor. The third showed the man leaning in close, whispering something that made Folake smile. There were more timestamps, phone records, a detailed log of meetings spanning 6 months. Adebayo's hands shook so violently he dropped the photos. They scattered across his desk like accusations. This can't be real. Taiwo followed her last Thursday. They met at the Transcorp Hilton, room 512, from 2 to 5 p.m. Taiwo. Adebayo's voice was hollow. My cousin. The private investigator. You had my wife followed. I had to be sure, Pastor. I saw her leaving that hotel weeks ago, and I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't let this continue without you knowing. Adebayo stood abruptly, his chair clattering backward. Get out. Pastor. I said get out. His roar echoed through the empty church building. Bommi fled, leaving the evidence scattered across the pastor's desk. Adebayo stood alone in his office, surrounded by the wreckage of his perfect life. The photographs mocked him. His wife, his Folake, the woman he'd built his ministry with, the woman he trusted completely, was a stranger. He thought of every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months, every late arrival, every distracted smile. How had he not seen it? How had he been so blind? He picked up his phone and pulled up Folake's location. They shared their locations with each other, a safety measure they'd agreed on years ago. According to the app, she was at Living Waters Cafe, having coffee with the women's ministry team. Adebayo called the cafe. Hello, this is Pastor Adebayo from Redemption Grace. I'm trying to reach my wife. She mentioned she'd be meeting with some of our ladies there this afternoon. The barista sounded confused. I'm sorry, Pastor, but there's no group here from your church. We just have a few individual customers. Adebayo thanked her and hung up. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. He pulled up the tracking app again and watched the little dot that represented his wife. It wasn't moving. It was stationary at an address that wasn't the cafe. He entered the address into Google Maps. Transcorp Hilton Hotel. She was there right now. In that hotel. With him. Adebayo grabbed his car keys and ran. The drive to the hotel felt both endless and too quick. Adebayo's mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, memories flooding back in painful clarity. Their wedding day, Folake radiant in white, promising before God to be faithful. The day they'd started the church in a rented classroom with 15 people. The night they'd cried together when the doctor told them Folake couldn't have children. The way she'd held him through his father's death, whispering that they'd get through it together. Together. What a lie that had been. He screeched into the hotel parking lot and spotted Folake's car immediately. Proof. As if he needed more. He stormed into the lobby, and the receptionist looked up with a professional smile that faltered when she saw his face. Can I help you, sir? What room is Folake Adeyemi in? Sir, I can't give out guest information. I'm her husband. Pastor Adebayo Adeyemi. Now tell me what room my wife is in, or I'll tear this hotel apart looking for her. The receptionist glanced at her colleague nervously. The manager appeared from a back office, sensing trouble. Sir, please calm down. Room. Number. Now. Something in Adebayo's voice must have convinced them. The manager typed quickly. Room 512. Adebayo didn't wait for the elevator. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his breath coming in ragged gasps. 5th floor. Room 512. He stood outside the door, his hand raised to knock, and suddenly he couldn't move. Behind this door was the truth. Once he opened it, once he saw with his own eyes what Bonmi's photographs had shown him, there would be no going back. His marriage, his ministry, his entire life would change forever. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Folake, I know you're in there. Silence. Then he heard it. Movement. Whispered voices. The scrape of furniture. Something inside Adebayo snapped. He'd been patient his whole life. Patient with his congregation, patient with his family, patient with God. But not now. Not about this. He stepped back and slammed his shoulder into the door. Once. Twice. The third time, the door burst open, the lock splintering from the frame. And there she was. His wife. Wrapped in a towel, water still dripping from her hair. And sitting on the bed, shirt unbuttoned, was a man Adebayo had never seen before. The world tilted. Adebayo, wait, Folake whispered, but her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. His phone slipped from his fingers. You're my wife. You're a pastor's wife. The man stood, reaching for his jacket, but Adebayo lunged forward. Folake stepped between them, her hands on Adebayo's chest. Please, just let him leave. Please. Move, Folake. Bayo, please. Move. His voice cracked on the word. The man grabbed his jacket and shoes and pushed past them both. Adebayo let him go. He didn't care about the man. He only cared about her. About Folake. About the woman who just destroyed everything. The door clicked shut, leaving them alone in the wrecked hotel room. Folake stood there, clutching the towel, tears streaming down her face. Adebayo couldn't look at her. He sank onto the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. How long? His voice was barely a whisper. Bayo. How long? 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of secret meetings and hidden phone calls and pretending to love him while she was giving herself to someone else. Adebayo's stomach lurched, and for a moment, he thought he might be sick. Who is he? His name is Connor. We met at a conference. Are you in love with him? Folake was quiet for so long that Adebayo finally looked up. Her face was streaked with tears and mascara, her eyes red and swollen. I don't know. That answer hurt worse than yes would have. Get dressed. We are leaving. Bayo, we need to talk. Get dressed, Folake. His shout echoed off the walls. I can't look at you right now. Just get dressed. She disappeared into the bathroom, and Adebayo heard the sound of her sobbing through the door. He stood and surveyed the room with new eyes. The rumpled bed. 2 wine glasses on the nightstand. Her clothes draped over a chair. His hands clenched into fists. He pulled out his phone and texted Bonmi, "You were right. I found them." Her response came immediately, "I'm so sorry, Pastor. What do you need?" "Call an emergency elders meeting for tonight. 8 p.m. Don't tell them what it's about. Just say it's urgent." Done. Folake emerged from the bathroom, fully dressed, her hair pulled back, her face scrubbed clean. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Good, Adebayo thought savagely. Let her feel small. Let her feel the weight of what she's done. They walked to the elevator in silence. Rode down in silence. Walked through the lobby in silence, and Adebayo saw the hotel staff whispering, staring. Let them stare. Let them talk. Soon everyone would be talking. In the parking lot, Folake reached for his arm. Can we please talk about this? Adebayo jerked away from her touch. Don't touch me. Just go home. I'll be there later. Where are you going? Anywhere but near you. He got in his car and drove. He didn't know where he was going, didn't care. He just drove through Port Harcourt, past familiar streets and landmarks that suddenly felt foreign. His phone rang repeatedly. Folake. He sent every call to voicemail. Finally, he found himself at the beach, the place where he'd proposed to Folake 15 years ago. They'd been so young, so sure of their love, so confident in their future. He'd gotten down on one knee right there in the sand and promised to love her forever, to honor her, to build a life with her. She'd said yes through happy tears, and they stayed there until sunset, planning their life together. That man, that young pastor full of hope and dreams, felt like a different person entirely. That man had been a fool. Adebayo sat in his car and finally let himself break. He sobbed until his ribs ached, until he couldn't breathe, until there were no tears left. Then he sat in the silence and felt the full weight of his shattered world. His phone buzzed. A text from Omoyemi, one of the elders, meeting confirmed for 8 p.m. Is everything okay, Pastor? No, Adebayo thought. Nothing will ever be okay again. He arrived home at 7:30. Folake was sitting on the living room couch, still in the same clothes, her eyes swollen from crying. She stood when he entered. Bayo, please. Can we talk before you go to wherever you're going? There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. Don't I get a chance to explain? Explain what, Folake? Adebayo's voice was cold, controlled. Explain how you've been lying to me for 6 months. Explain how you've been sleeping with another man while I've been preaching about faithfulness. Explain how you've counseled other women to fight for their marriages while you've been destroying ours. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. You made a choice, Folake. Not once, but over and over again for 6 months. Every Tuesday and Thursday, you made a choice. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied about where you'd been, you made a choice. Every time you stood beside me in church and pretended to be a godly wife, you made a choice. I was lonely. Folake's voice broke. I was so lonely, Bayo. You stopped seeing me years ago. You stopped touching me, stopped talking to me about anything except church business. I felt invisible in my own marriage. So you cheated. That was your solution. Instead of coming to me, instead of insisting we fix our problems, you decided to betray everything we've built. I tried to talk to you. 2 years ago, I told you I felt like we were losing each other, and you dismissed me. You said we were fine. You said the church needed us. But what about what I needed, Bayo? What about me? So this is my fault? Adebayo's laugh was bitter. You're actually trying to blame me for your affair. I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to make you understand that our marriage was broken long before I met Kano. He didn't destroy what we had. We destroyed it ourselves, little by little, year after year, until there was nothing left. There was everything left. I loved you, Folake. I trusted you. I built my entire life around you. And you threw it all away for some man you barely know. He made me feel alive again. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was more than just Pastor Adebayo's wife. You are more than that. You've always been more than that. But apparently, being my wife, being my partner in ministry, being the woman I devoted my life to wasn't enough for you. Folake sank back onto the couch, her face in her hands. What happens now? Now. Adebayo checked his watch. Now I'm going to tell the elders everything. Then we're going to address the church. And then we're going to figure out what's left of this disaster you've created. You're going to tell the church. Did you think I'd hide it? Did you think I'd protect you from the consequences of your actions? Bayo, please. Think about what this would do. Think about the ministry, about all the people who depend on us. All the people who depend on a lie, you mean? All the people who look up to us as an example of a godly marriage when our marriage is a fraud. It doesn't have to be. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, we can walk through this together. Together. Adebayo stared at her. You want to fix this together? Folake, I can't even look at you without wanting to scream. I can't be in the same room without seeing you with him. You've destroyed every good memory we have. You've tainted everything we've built. And you think we can just go to counseling and fix it? Don't I deserve a chance? Don't our 12 years together count for something? They did count for something. Until you decided they didn't. Until you decided that your loneliness was more important than your vows, more important than our ministry, more important than me. He grabbed his car keys and headed for the door. Where are you going to stay tonight? Folake's voice was small. I don't know. A hotel. Like the one you've been spending your afternoons in. The door slammed behind him, rattling the windows. The emergency elders meeting was held in the church conference room. 6 men sat around the long table, their faces grave with concern. Omoyami, the head elder, spoke first. Pastor, you said this was urgent. What's going on? Adebayo remained standing at the head of the table. What I'm about to tell you will shock you. It shocked me. But you need to hear it, because it affects the entire ministry. The elders leaned forward, waiting. My wife has been having an affair for the past 6 months. The silence was deafening. Omoyami's mouth fell open. Elder Akinwumi shook his head slowly, as if trying to clear water from his ears. Elder Jide whispered, No. No, that's not possible. I found them today. Together. In a hotel room. Sister Folake. Elder Kehind looked like he might cry. But she's the first lady. She counsels our wives, she leads the women's ministry. How is this possible? It's possible because we're all human. Because none of us are above temptation or failure. And because my marriage has been failing for longer than I wanted to admit. Omoyami cleared his throat. Pastor, this is devastating. Not just for you personally, but for the church. Sister Folake is the face of women's ministry. People trust her. They confide in her. If this gets out, it will get out, Adebayo interrupted. We are not hiding this. I want to address the church this Sunday. I want to tell them the truth. The elders erupted in protest. Pastor, think about what you're saying, Akinwumi said. Think about the damage this would do to the church's reputation. We have 3,000 members. We have outreach programs, a school, partnerships with other ministries. If you announce this publicly, everything could fall apart. It's already falling apart. The foundation we built is rotten. Better to tear it down and start fresh than to keep building on lies. But what about forgiveness? Kehind asked. What about restoration? Matthew 18 says if a brother sins, go to him privately. Why does this have to be public? Because Folake isn't just any member. She's the pastor's wife. She's a leader. And she's been living a double life while counseling others on faithfulness. The people deserve to know the truth. What does Sister Folake say about this? Omoyami asked. Does she want restoration? Is she repentant? Adebayo's jaw tightened. She says she wants to fix the marriage. She says she was lonely. And what do you want, Pastor? That was the question, wasn't it? What did Adebayo want? He wanted to wake up and discover this was all a nightmare. He wanted to go back to this morning when his biggest concern was his sermon illustration. He wanted his wife back, the woman she'd been before she became a stranger. I don't know, he admitted. Right now, I can barely stand to be in the same room with her. But I know we can't continue to lead this church while living a lie. The congregation needs to know. Then they can decide if they still want us as their pastors. Us. Jide frowned. Pastor, with all due respect, you didn't do anything wrong. Why should you step down? Because I'm her husband. Because I missed the signs. Because I let our marriage deteriorate to the point where she sought comfort elsewhere. I'm not blameless in this. The elders argued for another hour, but Adebayo was unmovable. Finally, Omoyemi sighed. If you're determined to do this, then we'll support you. But Pastor, please take some time. Don't make any permanent decisions while you're this hurt and angry. Give it a week. Pray. Seek counsel. Then decide how to proceed. I've already decided. A week, Pastor. That's all we're asking. Don't address the church this Sunday. Take the week off. Let one of us preach. Get some space to think clearly. Adebayo wanted to refuse, but exhaustion suddenly crashed over him. He'd been running on adrenaline and rage, and now both were depleting. Fine. 1 week. But then we tell them. He left the meeting and drove to a hotel. Not the Transcorp Hilton. He couldn't stomach that. He checked into a small, anonymous place on the outskirts of town and sat on the edge of the bed, alone with his thoughts. His phone was full of messages from Folake. He finally opened them. I'm so sorry. Please come home so we can talk. I love you, Beo. I never stopped loving you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging for a chance. I ended it with Connor. I told him I can't see him anymore. Please don't give up on us. Adebayo read them all and felt nothing. Numbness had replaced the rage. He lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out how his life had fallen apart so completely in a single day. His phone rang. Not Folake this time. Burn me. Pastor, how are you holding up? I've been better. The elders called me. They said you want to tell the church. I have to, burn me. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not. I understand. But Pastor, can I ask you something? What? Do you still love her? Adebayo closed his eyes. I don't know. I love the woman I thought she was. But I don't know who she actually is anymore. Maybe that's what you need to find out. Maybe you need to actually see her, really see her, instead of the image you've created in your mind. She betrayed me, burned me. She lied to me for 6 months. I know. And what she did was wrong. But Pastor, you've preached about forgiveness every Sunday for 12 years. You've told broken people that God can restore anything. Do you believe that? Or does it only apply when you're not the one who's been hurt? Adebayo didn't have an answer for that. He spent the week in isolation, refusing Folake's calls, avoiding everyone from church. He read his Bible, prayed until the words felt meaningless, and wrestled with the impossible question, what now? On Thursday night, there was a knock on his hotel room door. He opened it to find Omoyemi standing there, looking somber. How did you find me? Adebayo asked. I called every hotel in the area. Can I come in? They sat in the small room, and Omoyemi didn't waste time. I went to see Folake today. Why? Because someone needed to. Pastor, your wife is falling apart. She's barely eating, barely sleeping. She ended things with the other man. She's willing to do anything to fix this. But she can't fix it alone. She needs you to at least talk to her. I'm not ready. When will you be ready? Next week. Next month. Next year. At some point, you have to decide if you want to save your marriage or destroy it. She destroyed it first. Did she? Or did you both destroy it together, just in different ways? Adebayo stood, pacing the small room. You don't understand what it's like. Every time I close my eyes, I see her with him. I see her lying to me. I see years of intimacy that I thought was real, and now I wonder if any of it was true. So ask her. Talk to her. Stop running and face this head on. What if I can't forgive her? What if this is too much? Then at least you know. But right now, you're in limbo. And so is she. And so is your church. 3,000 people are waiting to hear what their pastor is going to do. You owe them an answer. But first, you owe your wife a conversation. After Omoyami left, Adebayo sat in silence for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and texted Folake, tomorrow. Noon. At the house. We talk. Her response came immediately, I'll be there. Thank you. If you've stuck with this story this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you think Adebayo should do. Should he forgive Folake, or is this betrayal too deep to come back from? And don't forget to like this video because this story is about to take another turn you won't see coming. Friday at noon, Adebayo pulled into the driveway of the home he'd shared with Folake for 8 years. She opened the door before he could knock, her face drawn and pale, dark circles under her eyes. They sat in the living room, an ocean of space between them on the couch. Talk, Adebayo said. Tell me everything. And Folake did. She told him about the loneliness that had been building for years. About feeling invisible, like a prop in his ministry rather than his partner. About the night she'd cried herself to sleep after another week of him being too busy to really see her. About meeting Connor and feeling, for the first time in years, like someone actually cared about what she thought, what she felt, what she wanted. I'm not excusing what I did, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. There's no excuse. But I want you to understand that our marriage was dying long before I met him. And I tried to tell you. I tried so many times to tell you we were losing each other, and you didn't hear me. So you're still saying this is my fault? No. The affair is my fault. My choice. My sin. But the death of our marriage. That's on both of us, Bayo. You checked out years ago. You just didn't realize it because you were too busy building a ministry. Adebayo wanted to argue, to defend himself, but something stopped him. Because if he was honest, truly honest, Folake was right. When was the last time he'd asked her about her dreams? When was the last time they talked about anything except church business? When was the last time he'd really looked at her and seen the woman he fell in love with? I was trying to build something important, he said quietly. And you succeeded. You built an incredible church. But you forgot to build our marriage. You forgot that I needed more than just to be Pastor Adebayo's wife. I needed to be your wife. They sat in painful silence. Do you love him? Adebayo finally asked. No. I thought I might, for a while. But what I loved was how he made me feel. I loved being seen. I loved being desired. But I don't love him. I love you. How can I believe that? How can I believe anything you say after 6 months of lies? I don't know. I don't know how to prove it to you. But Bayo, I'm begging you for a chance. Not because I deserve it. I don't. But because 12 years of marriage is worth fighting for. Because the life we built together, even if it was broken, is worth trying to repair. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I'm just asking you not to give up. Not yet. Adebayo looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw not the betrayer but the broken woman who'd made terrible choices out of terrible loneliness. He saw the girl he'd proposed to on the beach. He saw the partner who'd stood beside him when the church was just 15 people in a classroom. He saw the woman who'd held him through his father's death. And he saw the woman he'd neglected, little by little, year after year, until she'd felt invisible in her own home. "I need time," he said. "I need space to figure out what I feel. But I won't tell the church. Not yet. We'll say you're dealing with a health issue and need to step back from ministry for a while. It will buy us time to figure out what we're doing." Folake's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This doesn't mean I'm staying. It just means I'm not leaving today." But it was a start. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for. Whether Adebayo and Folake can rebuild what was broken, whether trust can be restored after such deep betrayal, whether a marriage can survive the weight of this secret, those are questions that don't have easy answers. But they are questions worth asking. Because in the end, we're all broken people trying to figure out how to love each other without destroying each other in the process. And that's the real story here. Not about a pastor's wife who had an affair, but about two people who forgot how to see each other, and whether it's possible to learn how to see again. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me your honest thoughts. Could you forgive a betrayal like this? And share this video because someone in your life needs to hear this story today. Until next time, remember that every marriage is a choice you make every single day, and the question isn't whether you face hard times, but whether you face them together.